I feel like the further we've gotten into the season, the more that I've had to edit. And we're back.
That's absolutely terrifying.
Back from what?
When Bills come in rolling into 2020 like a train down the tracks, it takes energy.
Whew.
Katie, what's your resolution?
Oh, I to never hear that again.
Just trying to build up the excitement. It's been probably 4 weeks.
Excitement, but also like that was a wee bit terrifying.
Glad I accomplished my goal then. Before we get too far into 2020, though, it's time for a look back.
At
2019.
Oh, okay.
Whoosh, I feel like we need some like transitional music here now.
Well, now I'm going to be forced into adding that in. And we're doing it through the lens of comp.
We might be the only podcast covering it that way.
Hey-o. So 2019 was an interesting year, period, but also when it comes to comp. And I don't know, I started to write down a bunch of stuff that it caused me to think about maybe what happened or some trends in 2019 and talk about what they were and maybe even where they're at now as we start to look forward. The first thing that we hammer on this one a lot, 3% cost of living increase again. I think that's been the trend since 2008, basically since the last Great Recession.
It's been pretty constant for a long time. It might even, for the most part, be before that.
Yeah. It's almost viewed as a, it is what it is now. Everybody kind of accepts that as your raise.
Right.
Yeah.
Right or wrong. And we've talked about in other episodes, better ways you might want to think about that. If you have a budget, better ways you might want to utilize it. But it's kind of viewed as a de facto, not only by comp, I'd say, but probably by employees too.
Right. People, I think a large part of the workforce has now gotten used to raises are just going to tick up, tick, tick, tick. But there are, lots of other components to pay. And I think our listeners here are getting smarter and savvier about other ways of rewarding people and recognizing them, more promotions, more bonuses, spot bonuses, annual incentive plans, things tied to performance.
A previous podcast, I'm going to forget the title, where Mark Zipko joined us. He said, well, even if that is your budget, is there a better, even if you have a 3% budget, are there better ways that you can work with managers to use it? So in other words, everybody doesn't have to get 3%. Do you want to reward your top performers 10% and everybody else gets nothing or something of the sort? Right?
Exactly.
We also talk extensively, shameless plug here, we talk extensively about this in our Comp Strategist Field Guide.
All right. Email coffee@payfactors.com if you want to get that. Bill personally wrote it. But I think also in line with that, one of the things that's emerging, Bill, is a trend of, and I think these things, I don't want to say they go hand in hand because they don't, but I think there's a relation to me. The 3% cost of living increase, but also we're starting to see the emergence of jobs-based pricing. And the reason I say that there's not a correlation at all, but a little bit of a relationship is we're starting to try to think more about who really matters to the business and how we reward them well, and not just giving everybody the same thing. And to me, there's two of the same there.
Correct. And I would guess that that's sort of a unintended consequence, but a good one. The discipline of how do you spend a thin budget is a good way to figure out where your money has the most value to the business. If salary increase budgets were 20% a year, managers would be throwing money around all over the place.
You wouldn't have this problem. Right.
But you'd have a different problem. We've talked about that before too, where you get all the, you get nobody ever wants to leave. And there are some people that should want to leave, most organizations. Just bad fits, not bad people.
Sure. Unless they are bad people.
Yes, there could be some of them.
The axe murderers out there.
How do you know?
I've been wondering about Bill.
Well, 100%. 100%. When he's like, oh, yeah, I spent the break touring around Florida. there's a correlation there, no doubt. But go on, Bill. What was your point?
I don't know.
No, but we see the jobs-based pricing emergence. We see the use of skills, trying to identify, and I think that's the point you were making, other than axe murdering, trying to identify what's unique about a person or a set of people or whatever. What's unique about drivers of the business that you want to reward?
Correct. And what is critical versus what is important to have versus what is nice to have versus what is, just table stakes, for lack of a better term.
Right. Just to be able to have a business.
Right.
And keep people there and all that kind of stuff. Right.
Commodity jobs.
Right.
Which could be different in different organizations.
Why are you looking at me when you say that?
I'm trying to carry on a conversation, Sean.
I thought you were trying to commoditize my job.
Nah, not yet.
You want to take over the podcast, Bill?
Nope.
You are the star.
There'd be nobody to make fun of me. Nobody for people to complain about.
To be clear, I don't make fun of you. I joke with you. With you. The other thing we're seeing in relation to this, though, because skills, I'm jumping from one topic to another here, but like skills are becoming more important in terms of how you look at a job, how you price a job. So it's not just, we use the example of an engineer, a software engineer. It's a software engineer with .NET skills, a software engineer that has AI skills, right? And what does that do to the job? Well, to figure that out, we have to know what is the job that you're pricing. Does it need those skills? Is that a requirement? And what does that do then to the market pricing of it? It's not just a software engineer, then all of a sudden it's a software engineer with those skills. So as we're seeing the emergence of skills, we're seeing comp want to be in control of the descriptions then too. Right,
and that was sort of a big 2019 talking point, was skills-based pay, skills-based market pricing. I think that the practitioners are very interested in that, how that works, but are also a little challenged by collecting the data themselves. Correct. Because there aren't a lot of databases inside companies right now that tie people or jobs to the skills they have or what they need. And the industry is sort of growing into it also. I think it's probably being led mostly by the tech industry, but the idea of using skills, sort of in every job as a way of distinguishing the market pricing is, a coming trend, or it is a trend. It's not coming; it came, and
it's here.
It's here.
It's ready.
But it, I think it made it to the list in 2019.
Yeah, and hey, we use the example all the time because maybe it's the most relatable, the tech industry. But we've heard this exact same thing from insurance industries where different actuaries have different skills and different specializations. Right. We've heard this from manufacturing. We've heard this from truck drivers or drivers, I should say, and the different versions thereof. I mean, there are a million different versions of the same thing. It's just that maybe because the world we're close to, or maybe just because of the visibility of how quickly tech changes, that's a thing. But it's almost ubiquitous.
Yes, but the historical collection of compensation data was not robust enough to collect that kind of
Problem's
information.
The same no matter where.
But collecting skills and then aggregating and reporting on that, and then being able to, publish surveys that had market pricing for every job with every skill or combination of skills is difficult. And I also, separate issues. I still think there's confusion over how do you deal with skills in market pricing,
Sure.
And we'll see that in 2020, and that, if the whole idea of this, for a given job, 88% of the people have a set skill, and that skill has a 7% differential. I go, well, wait, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
If that's part of almost every job,
then it's just part of the job.
It's just part of the job, and it's not a differentiator, and there is no differential.
As opposed to if it's a software engineer with specific skills, to keep using that example.
Correct.
Probably, I don't know what percentage, I'm going to make something up. Probably 20% of people have machine learning skills or AI
Correct.
skills,
right?
Yeah.
And that's where you see this stuff making a difference, because it's sort of the job with the core set of skills, knowledges, capabilities is worth one thing, and then the job with the cutting edge the harder to find thing is then worth more.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it spikes early, like AI is a great example. AI jobs are more valuable, or, jobs where people have AI experience are more valuable. But as time goes on, every job that needs AI will have AI, and it will become a core component of the job and not a value-added skill. It'll be a core skill.
Yeah, it's a supply-demand shift.
Yeah.
It's needed right now for cutting-edge industries, so there's a premium for that. But I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, I'm going to date myself and also expose myself as just a tech illiterate right now. I think it was like PHP. Most people were coming out with C# or associated languages. Java was kind of cutting edge at the time. But everything was starting to be coded in because of Facebook, PHP. And so people that understood that at the time when I was a young lad, there was a premium because you could just plug in, understand a language, and start helping them code right away. Right, so you're right. It's this constant whatever's new, you need to be. There's a premium place because there's just not enough people out there, but it does become more common,
mainstream.
Yeah, and we see this too. Katie, in marketing a lot, right?
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of trends between engineering and even marketing because again, constant new technology, constant new skills that you need to keep up on.
No, but we see it with trying to hire. And grow the team. Like there are areas that not just us, but as you talk to other people, at least in our network, they're hiring for the same roles and having a really hard time finding the right skill set, to match it. It's evolved a lot in even the short amount of time that I've been, in my career.
The other thing though too with job descriptions that we hear a lot is, I'll say bluntly, right? HRIS systems aren't great at them.
I was going to say in a word, help.
Right. Well, either they're scattered or they're in an HRIS system that's not well made for it and it's an add-on. And so comp needs these skills more than they ever have before to be able to match and price the right job. But also what was kind of just literally given to comp before, which is like, oh, we have this HRIS system. They happen to have this module. Why don't you just use that?
Right.
Is not doing it anymore. Primarily, or one of the main reasons is just what we talked about. It's not easy to use. You can't keep track of things well. It's in a different system from where you're probably market pricing.
Right.
You need to be able to pull all that stuff together easily and understand the effects of things like skills on a job.
Right. And I think, back to 2019 is sort of the crossing point where you see comp people saying we need to own this. We need to own the job description.
For our jobs.
And own it, standardize it, make sure it has the right information in it, tying back to skills and
it's the
but
most
other
recent
things.
one that exists. I don't have to hunt for it.
How much has the pay equity conversation fueled this too?
Equal pay for equal work probably plays another big role.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Yeah.
Although I think and that is a big topic for 2019.
Yeah, not to segue,
jumping
but
me ahead in my list.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. It was just like.
But it is, and it's. I think that's also. I think it was predicted in 2019. You'll see in 2020 that will sort of cause a minor but a real pivot in job descriptions because now they're going to be rewritten or at least edited with that in mind, that this is the thing that we're using to say, Katie's job is this and Sean's job is that. They are not the same job.
Right.
I don't think there was any confusion, but there was.
But I would,
podcast host,
Bill,
and Bill and his Allbirds.
Yeezys.
Bill and his Yeezys.
I like that, like you like the Yeezys, like faintly mention it. Get it right, Sean.
But I was just talking to somebody the other day about the emergence of those laws, right? So we've had it where we're broadcasting from here in Massachusetts. Was it when did
2017?
Come into
the summer.
2018.
2018 was the first year.
We've
had it for a few years.
Wasn't it July
right.
20?
It was that the law passed first in
And
Massachusetts, but it wasn't.
There was a year delay.
And it was effective July 2018 because we had our friend on the podcast who was going through this at her company. And
yes.
Right.
So we're broadcasting from our ivory towers. But I was just talking to somebody the other day. Colorado is enacting it in 2021. So it's law now, but the same thing. It doesn't take effect until 2021. And they're joining California, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, as we mentioned, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, and Washington having strong protections for equal pay for equal work. So there's going to be an emerging trend that's going to continue in this front, it seems. And the way you I think what we've heard, Bill and Katie, the way that you start to think about that, or the way most are approaching it, maybe is what I want to say, because I am not a lawyer, in case anybody's confused.
No, you're not.
Is to start to look at to make sure that your descriptions are lined up, that they are as accurate as possible, always fresh. So that's the baseline for starting to figure out if you're paying equally for equal work.
Right. You need the baseline is what's equal work.
What is the work they're doing? Yeah.
Right. You know, and if I could wave my magic wand and get, you know, anyone out there listening to, you know, standardize across the states, and maybe that, you know, like a lot of other laws, it'll roll up and we'll have in a few years a federal law that sort of I guess supersedes or takes over for all these state laws, because
there's federal for equal pay, but I don't think it's for the equal work part.
But it's not right. It's different. It's just a different law.
It's like a 1963 law.
Right.
So then Kennedy signed it into law.
But you know, as both a practitioner and as a, you know, employer, it's like different laws in different states.
Not great.
Is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
this is the trend that I would think we'd see, which is 9, I think, at least states, and I know Puerto Rico has this too. So you're starting
some
to see the
cities
emergence.
too, right?
Some cities too as well. Yeah, you're starting to see that emergence, and so I think it's the precipice of it for sure. I think you'll start to see whenever year, 2 years, 3 years, more of a snowball effect that'll just cause it to be. One of the other things while we're talking about state laws, though, that we're seeing is, and again, this is not just state, but it's municipal as well, is minimum wage laws coming into effect. So I'll over the holidays, I was talking to my parents, who are Pennsylvania residents, about, like, I forget how it came up, but I think the minimum wage in Pennsylvania.
Schooling them on comp?
Probably. I think minimum wage in Pennsylvania, it hasn't changed since I was there. It's like $7.85 or something. Basically
Really?
It's basically
That's
the federal minimum.
Right.
Yeah, it's the same as the federal minimum. And it hasn't changed there, even though they've had a governor for 6 years now, 5 or 6 years, pushing for it. They can't get it passed. So, but you're seeing, like, Philadelphia, I think, is pushing for a $15 an hour minimum wage. Certainly New York, Boston, San Francisco, major metropolitan areas where the cost of living is higher. You're starting to see them push for a higher minimum wage. And so, again, A, be aware of that, but B, as you see those trends, it'll probably become more common, more nationalized.
I would guess part of the challenge with Pennsylvania is the graphics of the state, right? And that I'm guessing it's harder for them to, you know, commit to make the employers pay more. Maybe.
They have a divided legislature, so it's tough for them to get anything passed either way. Like, for them to get a budget done every year is a nightmare. But yeah, I think you're right. You have very different costs of living. You have very different demographics between Philly, Pittsburgh,
correct,
and then everything else. And so the cost of living there would be really difficult probably for somebody in Altoona to pay $15 an hour and be able to increase the value of their products or services by that same amount to account for it. It's not the same in a major metropolitan area. So that's a good example. Massachusetts, a little bit outside of Boston, but Boston's kind of influence spreads almost halfway through the state.
Right. When you get out to Western Mass and the Berkshires,
it's cheaper cost of living for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's got to be, you know, geographic differentials here, but you're starting to see more metro areas go towards 15. But you do see states marching that way too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, they're putting steps in place for the next 2-3 years to get up to a certain amount. Typically 15 is the target right now, it seems.
It'll keep happening.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a trend for sure, and it's tough to monitor and stay on top of all that, so make sure we do. Other point with this is, because those are changing, well, minimum wage and you know, we talk about the proxy effects sometimes too. So Amazon moves into your area, sets up a distribution warehouse, and all of a sudden you have to pay $15 an hour minimum wage because that's their rule.
Right, that's what they do.
So they're going to take all your talent, right?
And that would, I mean, going back to your reference of would you say Altoona?
Altoona, Pennsylvania, what up?
Like, is it your hometown, Sean?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Like, if they do move into more rural
typically the distribution centers are in more rural areas,
so that would cripple the other organizations.
Yeah, I mean, we hear about this. It's the by proxy minimum wage. It's like the Amazon effect. Like, everybody else now has to pay that same rate or risk losing people continually.
Right, but if you think about it, like, you know, I don't think any of us here is an economist, but so let's pretend.
Certainly not. No.
Finance major.
All right. Finance major. But so if you have
major over here, so I'm kind of close.
Math. So if you have a big pool of people we'll call them the Amazon employees that come into a rural area and are getting paid $15 an hour, you're injecting a lot of money and spending power for new people to buy products from those legacy rural businesses. So hopefully those businesses will float up, will do better, make more money, and then be able to afford to pay their people more.
I took both micro and macroeconomics, so I feel qualified to say this right now. I'm just joking.
So did I.
Yeah, I did it.
No, but I did it too.
Oh, okay. Mine was older, though.
I think
it was
the theory
little and big economics when I took them.
Little and big. They made a way to make it sound more important.
Yes.
I think you'd see one of two things happen. Either the divide is exacerbated, and you have, which is kind of like the national trend that we see, you have more people that can afford stuff.
Right.
But on a micro level like that, it might actually be that case where most people have to raise what they're paying to in line or pretty close to it, or offer additional benefits to make up for it. In which case, it should bring about, you're right, more spending power and help everybody do a little bit better there.
Right.
But again, that's theory for sure.
Yeah, and if you're a small business owner in one of those places, I am sure it's quite scary.
100%. Yeah, if you're paying, take Pennsylvania, $7.85 an hour,
right, and
now it's 15.
Right.
Yeah, it's double.
What are you doubling
more
otherwise?
More than double.
Yeah, what are you doubling otherwise? Not quite more
Not
than double.
I'm a rating major.
Pretty close. Pretty close, but not quite.
So macroeconomics coming in handy, Sean.
I took both micro and macro.
Right.
Because these things are changing the landscape so quickly, either like what we're talking about by proxy, or keeping up with minimum wage laws, or skills that are driving up the cost of somebody's job. Because these are changing so quickly, we see companies trying to figure out a different way. This is one of the trends in 2019, a different way to keep pace with the market. So in a lot of areas, either at the low end there, what we're talking about, or in highly skilled jobs, or jobs with more certifications or requirements needed, the market can move more quickly because of what we were just talking about, the supply and demand. So it's harder to keep on top of that. So once a year is not enough anymore. Right? We're seeing them trying to figure out how to get data more readily and more frequently. So we see a lot more companies trying to do that, keep pace with the market more quickly, because it's just changing more frequently than it used to. It's just not enough to set it and forget it anymore. And we also see companies trying to be proactive about that. So in speaking of setting it, like setting notices so that as the market starts to move and they're keeping track of that if they see their range is no longer within that, if they're falling behind, or if they need to pay attention to a change, that they get reminded about it proactively, not, oh damn, it's 6 months later and I'm only finding out about this because employees are leaving now.
Right, keeping your fingers on the pulse.
Yeah, exactly.
Because again, it's one of those things that it's now possible to watch the markets move more than once a year.
Right.
You know, to see and I just think, just to be clear, every job's not bouncing all over the place.
Right. It's typically
it's the small number of jobs, but back to the beginning of this discussion, it's a small number of jobs that you really care about are the ones that are moving fast. You know, and
and if you lose those employees, then you're not screwed, but
right. Yeah, I mean it's a pain.
Yeah.
You know, a given team or overall company has a problem if you lose the key people.
Yeah, if you're a software
functions.
Company and you're not keeping up with those jobs, then
you'll find out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
At the other end, at the low end though, unless you have 300% turnover baked into your business model, which some do, you need to make sure that you're keeping pace with minimum wage or the by proxy minimum wages, right? So it's like, I'd say it's almost both ends there, like highly skilled or highly credentialed or certified jobs. And then that low end too, that just somebody in your town, we use Amazon as an example, but anybody in your town deciding they're going to bump that up can have a dramatic effect there. A quarter an hour is all that it takes a lot of times to get somebody to move. So keeping track of that stuff is incredibly important now. And the last thing that I could think of a trend here, and we can go all day on this and take comments from
a 2019 trend.
2019 trend. We can take comments from listeners as well. Just comment on the episode or comment on the series. This is your favorite, Bill.
My favorite.
We've touched on this a couple of times. I think it was one of the early episodes even where we said, I remember the title was "Your Raise is Now a Bonus," right?
Yeah,
where we started to talk about incentive practices and those things. But the tax cuts from was it 2018?
Oh yeah.
That were made where, at the time, it was Home Depot. I remember Home Depot, AT&T, Best Buy. I kind of remember Verizon too.
Yep.
Got a lot of press for saying that they're going to take those tax cuts and give bonuses to their employees.
Right.
And then you dug into it and you had to find out that like you had to be there for a long time to get the full 1,000 or whatever it was.
Well, I think it was different for different companies, but it was
one example there.
But there were 200-300 companies that sort of got headlines because they took the tax cut and said
took a portion of the tax cut.
Right. Took a portion of the tax cut and said we're giving it to employees as a bonus or something along those lines. And they did it in different ways. Some interesting, some kind of boring, and some big, some small. But I remember when we talked about that when it came up, it's like, what happens in 2019? Because the tax cuts are annual, and these were one-time bonuses. And, are they going to do it again? My prediction, Cynical Bill said no.
Yeah, you said no.
So here's the answer. I have a couple different sources on this, right? So I'll try to make this not terrible, not just me reading. But the one thing I found was the New York Times. This is an exact quote, and we can put the link in the notes. It said corporate earnings of this was written earlier in 2019, so it was about a year after the tax cuts went into effect. Corporate earnings over the last several quarters show why companies were such enthusiastic cheerleaders of the tax cuts. By cutting the corporate tax rate to 21% from a high of 35%, the law reduced the effective tax rate that many companies pay. It fueled after-tax corporate profits, which rose nearly 20% in the third quarter last year, 2019, from the previous year. So it's a huge rise. The tax law was clearly a driver of that increase because profits before taxes rose at a much slower rate. Right, so just to be clear there, they're not growing as fast, they're just reaping more profits because they're paying less out. In the last half century of the American economy, it's been rare for after-tax profits to grow so much faster than before-tax profits. Usually it only happens around recessions. And so, analysts noted that the handouts to workers amounted to a relatively small share of the roughly $200 billion in federal income taxes that corporations avoided thanks to the cuts. Stock buybacks by publicly traded companies continue to set records. And what we saw then was that Cynical Bill was probably right. Those things weren't lasting.
Probably.
Those things weren't lasting.
Yes.
Very few companies did wage increases, although we did see those tick up last year, to be fair. And they did bonuses because they could still reap the windfall from a lot of this in other ways and use it, for example, stock buybacks, but get good PR for it in the short term. So it was cheap PR, basically.
Right. And
that's what we said at the time, too.
Right.
We were like, this is clearly, and I think the three of us were all cynical about it. Like, we said, this is clearly just a PR stunt in many ways.
But I think the biggest indication of this, that said, this was from the Wall Street Journal, private sector companies spending on non-production bonuses. Spot bonuses, or windfall bonuses, fell 24% in the first quarter of 2019 from a year earlier.
What percent?
24. The largest decrease for the category dating back to 2005.
Yeah, although that's one of those tricky statistics because it could be the reason it dropped is because there was a one-time spike.
Sure.
So you're obviously going to have a bigger drop after the spike.
Well, I think that's what it's saying, is it was clearly a one-time spike and then it dropped, right? Is there a Freakonomics discussion we should get into there otherwise, or is that?
Ooh, we could. Although the Freakonomics discussion I was going to bring up was to your previous point of the companies that didn't give one-time bonuses but did give pay increases.
Yep.
Raised the pay. That one's a little trickier because if you raise somebody's pay this year or in 2018, if you raise somebody's pay 5%, and then 2019 going forward, you go back to your usual 3%, you get the compounded benefit of that.
Sure.
And so the company is continuing to pay that every year because you've moved up. You moved the line up.
Which in theory, going back to my microeconomics class, I took macro too.
I've heard that somewhere.
Which in theory, if that's the case though, and your tax cuts stay permanent or stay for the long term, then that's fine because you're still benefiting from that.
Correct. Every year you are benefiting. That was my point. It's like if those companies that did that actually are sharing their tax cut at whatever level they did it with the employees permanently.
Quote, unquote. Yeah. What'll be interesting though is like, okay, so let's say that rate goes back up to 30 or 35%.
The corporate tax rate.
Yeah. Do they take that? Do employees not getting raises for a while? What does that mean?
No, although that's when you slow it down, or because it has the same effect. If your 3 becomes a 2, that's permanent.
Right. So you just don't increase the slant as much.
Right.
The one thing I did find interesting while I was researching this is there's this great quote, because we talk about behavioral economics a lot here.
Is that
kind of?
Is that behavioral micro or macro economics?
Well, I took both. But there was an interesting quote that they were talking about some of the behavioral economics behind these types of rewards, and I just found this little area was interesting. This is an LA Times one. It was a quote from Nicholas Epley, a behavioral scientist at the University of Chicago. And he said, "Money is never just money. Money is something you have to interpret. What is the money for? Where did it come from?" And he went on to talk about how it depends the terms that you use. So if you go back to President George Bush, when they did tax rebates, when something is called, this is all just windfall money, right? Something you did not expect otherwise. But when it's a rebate as opposed to a bonus, which I think is, well, it's certainly how the companies phrased them around the tax cuts. But Bush, when he gave the tax rebates, called it a rebate. That's categorized in people's brains as old money that's being returned to you to furnish existing needs like retirement savings or mortgage payments. Whereas if something's a bonus, you're more likely to spend that on what economists call, I took micro and macro, what economists call hedonistic purchases, right? So it's indulgent, it's pleasure, it's right.
You're treating it like found money.
Yeah, I'm going to go take a vacation with this, or I'm going to go dine out with this, or I'm going to buy new clothes with like special clothes.
Is that how special clothes, like ball gowns in your tuxedo?
Yes. Or I don't know, maybe you go out and buy, Bill goes out and buys a new pair of Yeezys.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it.
Discretionary.
Is this actually, are there stats, do you know, around how people spend bonuses? Is this how most people spend their bonuses?
Well, it depends how they're categorized, though, as opposed to, because like these are unexpected.
But okay,
If
so
unexpected is different from expected.
And Bill, tell me your theory on bonuses.
My theory on bonuses? No, my theory. But
if it's a bonus that's like baked into your salary structure that you know of,
yes.
Will you still spend it?
Well, Bill, tell me your theory on bonuses.
I think I'm worried I'm going to get the answer wrong on my own theory.
It's a lot of pressure.
If your bonus is stable and predictable from period to period, year to year, typically, then you think of that as an entitlement and salary, and you roll it in, and you plan for it.
Spend it on something that's a rare treat.
Right.
You're going to be like, oh, I'm going to use that to pay off my car loan, or I'm going to just I know that's coming, so I know what I'm going to do with it.
Right.
It's you mentally budget it. A spot bonus, you're like, it's a windfall. It's it's not going. It wasn't accounted for in anything. You didn't know it was coming.
I didn't expect this at all. Now I got $1,000.
Gonna go buy some Yeezys.
But what's funny is that what I was gonna say before you put me on the spot was that it's funny that the Bush rebate, part of that was to stimulate the economy, but the interpretation here of that behavioral economist is they should have called it
a
bonus, or given it some sort of windfall value, because what happened in 2018 with the
tax rebates,
the Trump tax cuts. What happened with those bonuses, even though they only happened once, is that those were a windfall and people spent them, and that was the point. Part of the point was to stimulate the economy.
It's interesting.
To not save
it. When the rebates happened previously,
the Bush rebates.
Yeah, then you were
they're more likely to put it in your 401k
or something.
Yeah. So I'm wondering though, I took micro and macro, so I'm gonna go switch over to the macro now.
Which one is that?
Big.
I'm wondering on a macro level if that matters. So if I remember right, and I'm gonna conflate two here, I think the Bush tax cuts were right after he entered office and had a surplus from the previous year. But I remember for sure Obama wanted to do the same thing when he came in, because we were almost in the depths of a recession, if not in the depths. But he did it through a payroll tax cut, So
Obama.
So you got more money in your paycheck immediately. You didn't have to think about it. It was a payroll tax cut that they decreased the tax that you had to pay there. So my point in saying for both, though, because of the point that you were just making, I wonder if it matters. Because as long as people have that money, even if it goes in their 401k, well, somebody's making money off that. In your 401k, there's a transaction cost, there's a management fee, whatever. Somebody's making, you use it to pay your electric bill, whatever. Somebody's making money off that. It's going back into the economy. Not as much in a splurge fashion, but in a sense that like it's I don't know, like from a macro standpoint, I wonder if that matters or not.
I think it does, and I think maybe Tessa should be like trying to book a better guest for this topic.
Let's go, Bill.
Than us. I think there's a whole lot of
economics expert.
There's a whole exactly. There's a whole lot
macro, we're good.
And micro. There's a whole lot of drag when your money is being invested. Like if you put it in the 401k, then the mutual funds are getting it, and they're investing in companies, and the companies are taking the money, and then it's sort of
fair.
How does it trickle down? Not to link it back to the
or in the example
Reagan, but like how does it get to the mom and pop shops on Main Street and whatever? To
any good politician worth their salt wants that immediate.
Me, I'm saying.
Any good politician that wants their immediate effect from any good politician wants an immediate effect from that.
Right, because they want it associated with them, right?
That's right. So yeah, you're right. And the other aspect of that you would say is, if somebody's going to pay their electric bill either way. So if they would use the rebate to pay their electric bill or to pay their mortgage, or they're going to pay that anyway. So that's what they want, that lift of discretionary spending.
Right. You want people to spend money in ways they wouldn't spend it if that's
right.
If you're trying to stimulate the economy.
But if Bill is already buying Yeezys, then
Bill's in his own world. Top 1%. Top 1%.
Yeezys for his trip to Tahiti. Was that where he was, or was it Bali?
What he did in Tahiti, actually, and I shouldn't share this. This is going to expose too much about Bill.
Stays in Tahiti.
Bought a pair of Yeezys, cut the tops off of them, fashioned them into flip-flops.
So they're like sandals.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's how hard he balls.
Wow.
So those are the trends that we saw in 2019. I saw that last little divergence. I just found fascinating. Like it's one of those behavioral economic things that as we think about how you should categorize.
I always find that stuff so interesting.
Yeah, we should bring a behavioral scientist on here sometime.
To start the year off right with an idea for a future podcast.
As we do.
As like Bill does, yes.
I think the sort of second order takeaway from that behavioral economics discussion is like, how do you as a comp person think about when you're giving your employees money, like what do you want them to do with it? Do you want them to spend it? When the CEO says, hey, let's give people a bonus, I think you want the comp people to be thinking, like, how do you want the employees to react to this?
Yeah, what's the perception?
Do you want them to be excited, or do you want them to be, like
or
feel
do you want
more
them to now
security?
Feel entitled to this every year, or
right.
Yeah. So the like take example that we were just talking about there, the payroll tax that was decreased under Obama. You don't really know that's happening. All of a sudden, you just see a little bit of extra money in your paycheck.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really have that same effect as like, boom, here's $1,000. Go spend it, right? Like, so to your point, if you're in comp, you want, I would think, you wouldn't want that all of a sudden, like you're if you have, let's just make it easy math, if you have $1,000 to spend on a given employee, you don't want to space that out over months and have, to your point, Bill, also about like somebody thinking that it's a given and spend, that a divided amount, like whether it's every month or every week or whatever that you would give to them, and slow roll that. You'd want that immediate. You want that immediate, endorphins are released.
Right.
Oh my God, my employer's awesome. Right. You want that perception with it.
Right.
So that was 2019. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a future cast at some point. We'll take a look.
Future cast.
We'll take a look into the predictive comp
crystal
magic ball.
Bill has one in his office. Have you ever seen it?
No.
It's in the back. It's like behind the box.
Is that where all the steam comes up from?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. You've wondered, right?
I just thought it was a bad radiator.
There's a lot of editing to be done with this podcast.
Oh no.
All right. Well, this one was a little long, but there was a lot to cover. There's a lot going on in 2019.
A whole year.
It was a long year, yeah.
We found a lot to talk about in 2020, so we're glad to have everybody back. We're going to have another great year in comp. Going to be interested to track these, what we saw happening in 2019, what continues to happen in 2020, and how we react to it. Right, some of those laws that we talked about are still coming into play.
Oh yeah, big law podcast is coming. I think.
Can't wait. I love getting deep into legislature.
The AB5 in California is already creating a storm.
Cannot wait. We'll tackle Colorado. Yeah, lots ahead. And join us, mostly Bill, on our upcoming webinar. You can go to the World at Work site and check out their webinars. Bill's going to be hosting an upcoming webinar on how to measure comp.
It's literally what the webinar is called. There's a subtitle, but.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Let us know your thoughts on this. Let us know what you saw happening in 2019 that you think might continue or not, or what might emerge in 2020. Leave a comment.
Rate us.
Give us those 6 stars, because Bill is nothing but an egomaniac. He refreshes every minute. Help feed his soul.
Bill's actually super humble. I just want everyone to know that.
And with that, we're back to a regular schedule, so we'll see you on a regular basis. Holidays disrupted it a bit, but we'll be back every other week now with more comp news you can use.